I was one of them. And then when we went to the conference office to do work that we were called to do there, we saw it's just as disorganized as the local church. And living nearby here, I could soon learn that it was the same in the General Conference. And that was one of the reasons I did not want to come here as a 36-year-old. So in just a nutshell, the whole idea that we've come to today, where you have a combined budget for the church, a combined budget theoretically for the conference, and the division, and then the division was included in the world field, the world budget. But no division, believe me, started off on their own. I personally had to get express permission from the General Conference officers to go out into even North America. When we first did the personal giving plan, it was breaking tradition. And I had been around long enough, even at that age, to realize you don't go against the organization. It's got wisdom. And so I didn't want to. I wanted to participate hand in hand with administration. So, yeah, Charles Griffin was the division man at the time we introduced what became the world budget to that division. We had already done it in Trans-Africa division. We'd already done it in some of the other divisions. I never put my name on material. And I think you can understand now in hindsight why I didn't do that. All the material that we came from the General Conference Stewardship and Development Department. But I am not going to be employed by the church and then put my name on everything that comes off the end of my pen or typewriter or a PC. So because of that, some of the guys in the divisions did put their name on General Conference material because it was there. And it was introduced without somebody's name on it. It was easy to claim it. That was never a problem for me. And I think you need to be cautious yourselves to some degree. So in getting permission from the General Conference officers to go out into the world, piece by piece, area by area, you had to be sure, I had to be sure, we have to be sure that we are hand in hand with administration. And so for a while we had different names for the same plan adapted to that division in different divisions in the world. But ultimately, it was all from one central voted plan, voted by the General Conference. And in every case until, well, I won't get into that. It was very carefully implemented to not cause confusion. And in some ways, it has caused a little confusion because I would not put my name on stuff. And so that's a hang-up, but it really isn't. This is a church plan. This is a Seventh-day Adventist church, not Paul Smith or some other person. And that's why we have to hang together, stay together, work it out together. And yes, we do help different divisions adapt to the world budget. And I couldn't just start out and say, we're going to have a one offering plan. If I had done that, they'd have blown me out of the water. You can't go out of here and go to some area in the world and think you're going to change everything overnight. So the whole idea took decades. But it kept the church together. And when we finally finished out, we have what you have right now. The combined budget plan, the conference development plan, the world budget for the GC and divisions, all then was easy to come up with a simple thing that was our aim from the very beginning. Well, we couldn't talk about it. Nothing that could cause division was this very simple approach. You return the tithe to the one to whom it belongs. You give an offering to the God you love so much that you give everything you are, everything you have, everything you know, you give it back without reservation. So that brings us back to something else that came up. We need to understand, and I'm working on something, if it's of any benefit, I'll let you guys have it. But the real meaning of the tithe, I'm leaving out the others to save time, Sabbath, etc., and the real meaning of an offering, so that when a person is at home, they set aside their tithe, they set aside their offering at home, and then they bring it to the altar of God where they give it. In other words, this whole thing of different plans was to bring it back to where the tithe and the offering would be a deep, very deep spiritual experience, developing further our relationship to Jesus Christ.
Thank you, Elder.
Sorry for taking, but I thought it might be necessary.
It seems that we have one or two more questions. Let's do some quick questions because we don't want to cut the next speaker short. But let's entertain just one or two more quick questions.
The development plan, wasn't that replaced by Philanthropic Services and Industry, or PSI?
No.
Working together.
But isn't the development plan, though, used to build structures? Did I misunderstand that?
No, philanthropic is something special in North American division.
Look, evangelism, conference evangelism was even in the development.
Okay.
Forgive me, I'm an old timer here. The development plan, now I'm talking about original. I mean, I was there, and it came out of the. So, what developed later is fine, but you're not talking about the original development plan. Conference-wide development was the very descriptive name for it. This meant that a conference also wants to have evangelistic meetings and soul winning just as much as a local church does. So it was a very incorporated method to ultra simplify the incredible confusion that was in the churches for the appeal of different offerings.
Thank you, Elder.
No, the services
answer,
the services that Mill Murray started when I was here is a different thing altogether. His
Yes.
approach in the beginning was working for institutionals.
yes.
It was not the local conference. It was not conference development.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different subject altogether. What has happened is people have let it become eroded in the last 2 or 3 decades.
Thank you.
Are there any more resources that are around from Paul Smith's era or even Mel Reeves' era? I'm struggling in Papua New Guinea and many of the Pacific Islands where we've got missions really languishing. I desperately need materials to help them as administrators budget and plan. I've got really nothing that I've been able to get hold of to help train administrators in Mount Hagen how to run a viable mission so that one day they can become a conference.
I would like to respond to that, just
Yeah.
part of it. We are acquainted with the protege of Mel Reese, and he's willing to give us all of that material, and we want to organize it and put it up online for free.
Okay.
It was
Thank you.
those guys that wrote all that stuff that just doesn't seem to be around
Thank you for clarification.
Yeah,
Maybe the last one?
I just want to get some clarification. Back in our own division, we met the combined budget plan, but the collection causes some confusion also, because there are churches where doing Sabbath school, they are collecting another offering. In divine service, they are collecting another offering. Some members don't understand why should there be two collections when initially that was the case, and then now we're now practicing. We took the COP, which therefore says we put everything in one pot.
Yeah,
Is
that's
there
it.
no confusion? The confusion is that they feel collecting twice is still going back to what they used to do. So I'm asking, what is
Very-
the... Yeah.
May I share our experience? I was in the SID as a stewardship director when that plan was implemented. And that was a question that was raised there. What do we do with Sabbath school offering? So after a lot of discussions, we decided to keep the Sabbath school offerings because it's a tradition of the church. And children will give and will be educated by giving in Sabbath school. We didn't think it will be advisable to just take off that offering. So we kept that offering, and we taught church members saying, we will apply the same distribution for Sabbath school and for worship service offerings.
In the traditional plan, we have the opportunity to give to the quarterly project only once in the quarter.
And,
But now, every Sabbath,
and besides that,
portion
let
is-
me just add something. Besides that, Ellen White says that we should not regret the fact of having many calls for offerings.
mhm.
So if we have many collections, we should not say, oh, that's not okay.
Yeah.
So some churches are even collecting offerings on Wednesdays, on Sundays. And some places they are collecting offerings on small groups, but all those offerings have the same destination.
Yes, and it's practically impossible
Yeah.
to apply this to the general conference personnel, because every new departmental come here with a vision, with a project, with a new offering appear. So with this system, you don't have a problem, because the 20% we cover all. The treasury we are going to distribute.
Please just help me here. You know, I understand what you've explained. I'm just talking about the confusion. Meaning that if we at the division are saying that we are doing the combined budget plan and we are collecting one offering, in other places they are collecting that one offering. In another place, they are still collecting Sabbath school offering as well as
Yes,
that offering.
elder.
So the confusion. So I just want to have a balance where
Yes, but the original plan was not collecting one offering.
okay.
Was collecting offerings
Mm-hmm.
that are going to
One
put in one amount.
report.
Yeah.
okay.
And the formula distribution will be applied to support all the level of the church. Thank you for your questions, and thank you for your clarification.